Hi, it's Dean from Maverrik. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm joined by Kurtis.
Thanks for having me.
Kurtis tries to hide from these, but he was saying he was busy with a call and couldn't come on. But this is totally unscripted, and we're going to talk about today's topic, which is, and I'm about to tell you what the topic is, Kurtis. How can a small business owner use LinkedIn to get clients and make more money in their business? Yeah. There's lots of hacks out there. There's lots of people saying there's secrets. What's the one big myth that people approach LinkedIn with? What's the big things, the wrong thinking that they come to LinkedIn with?
I think the big myth is that they think it's going to be quick and easy. So straight away, we've had tons of people who go, LinkedIn doesn't work. But their test of LinkedIn doesn't work is they've just signed up to LinkedIn, made an account, and they've sent 20 pictures and had no responses. So therefore, LinkedIn doesn't work. Yeah. Now, LinkedIn is a platform that takes consistency because one, you're trying to build awareness with your audience, but you're also trying to build trust with them eventually as well. And that just takes consistency. If we go by touch points, if you're just doing the old connect and pitch, that's all they see of that person. So how can someone evaluate and go, you know what, I will buy that?
So can I tell you a funny story?
Yeah.
So a LinkedIn trainer has been outreaching to a member of our team. So immediately it's probably robots, because why would a LinkedIn trainer reach out to a company who helps companies sell more through LinkedIn? It's just nuts. So obviously they didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. But the follow-up emails that have come through, or the follow-up DMs that have come through, they've all been blurred. And it says, this message may be harmful or spam. And more people are getting this, where they're sending loads of messages and LinkedIn's actually blocking them. But even if it didn't, the success on LinkedIn the success doesn't happen just in the inbox, does it?
No, not at all. So a lot of people think, it's almost just bringing the old school tactics of, I need to make 100 cold calls a day, I need to blast out 1,000 emails. So in LinkedIn, I need to put out 100 or 200 messages. Now, the benefit to LinkedIn is that it's complete transparency. But with those tactics, that's also the downside, it's complete transparency. Because you're not hiding behind an email, you're not hiding behind a phone. They can physically see that you've put this 100-page pitch. If it's got any mistakes, that's probably another thing as well that they'll distrust you for. But the minute you send something like that, it breaks a lot of trust, and it just falls back, because essentially they can just see you've sent me a templated message. As you've probably seen with the LinkedIn trainer, we've somehow pulled in one of their searches, and we're literally a direct competitor. So actually, we're now making this joke about that company. So there's a lot of stuff like that which can basically just make it not work.
So if you were solopreneur, you've had a LinkedIn account for like 10 years or whatever, like everybody has, but you've never really put the time in. What are some of the things that I should be doing if I'm the person? Yep. I'm a solopreneur, I'm a freelancer, I'm a coach, I'm a some kind of consultant, whatever it is, but I'm on my own. I've got a limited amount of time, but I want to do two things. I want to get my name out there, and I want to get more clients. So what would I be doing to get my name out there, and what would I be doing to get more clients?
Quick things to get off, like foundation-wise, optimize your profile. So if you're the old generation where you've had your LinkedIn account for the past 10 years, it's geared up in terms of the CV where I've got 100 years in marketing, all of that stuff, and you haven't changed pictures.
I'm not that old, Curtis.
But yeah, so it's going, actually, my profile is going to be my shop window. So it's just, it takes 10 minutes, just optimize in the sense that put yourself in the other shoe. If you're a prospect, then you're going to land on your profile. What do they have to understand from that? So what can you help them with, who you represent, all of that stuff. Once you've got that nailed, it's then using content to build brand awareness and just basically generate curiosity. But it's
hang on, before we... So what should I be posting to create that curiosity? Should it be like my awards, my show reel? Should it be my like promotional offers? What should I be doing on content?
Yeah, so in terms of content, it's definitely not your awards, how amazing your product or service is. You've almost got to think that everyone's doing the exact same. So everyone's saying their product's faster, their product's cheaper, their product's quicker, their product's better. Everyone's doing that, so you're getting lost in the noise. Now, the way to get your content to work for you on LinkedIn is that your content has to seize your value proposition. And it really has to resonate with people, and that's how you get them to bite. And then it's using the tactics of going, okay, now I've got their value proposition here. How do I generate that curiosity? And it's just asking leading questions that will really agitate that pain. Now, once you've got that going, and once you're doing all of the tactics around content, it's being consistent, and then it's gearing your connections and your interactions with your prospects. So if you've got an old account that you've had loads of colleagues, it's going, okay, my business is there to help people in leadership roles. So I'm looking to grow my audience with leadership roles because that's who my content is there to influence.
So should I just connect with anybody?
I wouldn't say connect with anybody. I would say be a bit more open. So if you put yourself in my world, I look to connect with sales directors. But in the sense that I don't want to be too picky where I go, I'm not connecting with anyone who's not a sales director. Because essentially...
you never know who might be an opportunity.
Yeah, precisely. And the way LinkedIn works as well, if you can get that person to engage, LinkedIn's algorithm will go, okay, this person from such and such is seeing you. Maybe their connections might like to see Curtis. So actually, you actually benefit over people's extended network. So it's going, if I want to target sales directors, but the sales executives connecting with me, even though my main priority is the sales director, I should go, okay, let's do a bit of 360 connecting here, because that salesperson could probably influence that sales director.
Okay. And then just real simple tips on what's the best way to connect with a complete stranger? How do I not get banned? And what's some good practice about building a network in that way?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, if you get too many no's and they put, I don't know you, there's a thing that we call LinkedIn jail, where basically LinkedIn will restrict your account. So when we look to grow people's connections, it's to do it in a positive manner, but also in a safe manner. So when you connect with people, firstly, even before the connections even happened, it's going back to your profile. It's making sure that's optimized, because I think, what was the percentage?
Oh, yeah. So 62% of people on LinkedIn will check your profile before they decide to connect.
Yeah, so it's just having that optimized and just going, I don't look like I'm in Ibiza with 10 of my friends in my profile picture. It's you as a professional person, what you can help that person. So that's one thing to get sorted.
And you don't look fake.
Yeah, and you don't look fake.
Some people's profiles, they lock down the privacy or they don't update them, and it looks dodgy.
Yeah. And I mean, since the pandemic, there's a lot of scams, there's a lot of fake profiles, there's a lot of fake everything going around. You just want to have to go, can that person really trust and buy into me just by seeing my profile? Like, how does he judge? Like, how do they judge you by the book of your cover, basically?
And interestingly, off that same stat, that 62%, half of the people who come to your profile will either check out your featured section, your content, or your company page, which is really interesting in that, you know, a third of all of the people that you interact with will actually try and read your content in some or check you out in detail before they decide to reply to your message. So what can we do to, obviously you got the profile, but in terms of, I've found that sales director, I've found that person, what are some of the steps I can go through to get them connected?
Yeah, so we always talk about our methodology called the 7 steps. So the 7 steps is basically where we found, on average, people will only talk business with you as long as you created those 2 to 3 reciprocal interactions with that person beforehand. So even before we send out the connection request, we would look to create a 2-way conversation with that person beforehand. And it's important that I emphasize 2-way conversation, because when you create a 2-way conversation, it will essentially do one of 3 things. It will build familiarity around your profile, so at least the majority will actually end up looking to accept you because you've had that 2-way conversation with them. Do you mean you're no longer a stranger? You've got rid of that stranger danger. They've built some trust with you. Secondly, you're training that person to respond in the future. It's just like if you've ever done any cold calling, a lot of cold callers will try and get their prospect to say yes 2 or 3 times to them before they pitch. It just trains that friendly response. If you've had a few back and forths, the next time you send out a new message, it's more likely to respond. And then thirdly, which is probably most important, the algorithm will just go, okay, Dean and Curtis are engaging with each other on the platform here. Maybe they might like seeing each other's stuff as well. So therefore, my stuff will start appearing in Dean's feed. So it actually builds more brand awareness there.
Yeah, cool. So if I'm that solopreneur starting out on the platform, you'd absolutely encourage me that it is a place I can build.
Yeah.
How much of my sales, if I need 100 clients in the next year, what do you think I could get? Could I use LinkedIn as the full single channel if I wanted to?
I would say yes. I mean, going by our experience, the majority of our business comes through LinkedIn. So it's not just the messaging. We do things like webinars that will generate a lot of interest. But the great thing about LinkedIn is that you can speak to whoever you want to do business with. Especially in a B2B environment, you can talk to whoever you want to. There's no gatekeepers unless you get the odd Richard Branson who's got someone else covering his account. But I'm sure if you're able to engage with that person who's covering their account very well, they might even reach back out. So there's that transparency there. That is all quick and smooth. You can speak to anyone you want to. There's no time barriers. So yes, but in terms of, let's say, finally getting hold of that person, if you're good at emails or if you're good at calling, there's no point cutting all channels off and going, actually, because as you know with LinkedIn, there's always some people that can't be connected with by LinkedIn.
And in our training, we say to people, there's no point trying to reach out to somebody who hasn't logged in on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So knowing who's the best people to talk to on LinkedIn and who isn't is good. But if I decided, what I'm trying to do for everybody listening and watching to us is go, could I have confidence that I could fill my pipeline with LinkedIn if I had to? I could find enough people to fill my pipeline. Could I do that?
Yes, definitely. LinkedIn is the biggest B2B platform and it's still growing. Everyone's just moving over to LinkedIn, and there's a lot of, when you look at other platforms, there's a lot of, should we say, nonsense, where there's a lot of non-business. It's harder to find your prospects. If you use something like Sales Navigator, no matter what job roles you're searching, there'll be hundreds of thousands or even millions.
And on Sales Navigator, you can actually find the most active people.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to cold call or if you don't want to email, you can actually go, wow, I've got a load of people I can just build relationships with here. So final tips, Curtis, as we wrap up, what are some of the final things you would say to people other than buy our course?
So buy our boot camps. But what I would say is get going. So one thing when it comes to starting something new or even LinkedIn is people tend to overthink. We get it in our accelerator programs, we get it in our workshops, we get it in our boot camps. People just think too much about their profile, too much about their interactions, too much about their content. It's just to get going. I think with LinkedIn, we always talk about in terms of content, use it to field test your marketing. If something doesn't work, then it doesn't matter. You can just alter it and just crystallize it for the next person. So get going. And another one would be consistency. Yeah. Because it's all about touch points. Fortunately, we live in a fast-paced world, but unfortunately, we live in a fast-paced world because, for example, if we didn't know each other and we jumped on a Zoom call right now, if we didn't interact again in a week or so, we probably forgot each other's faces just because we're seeing so many different faces. So it's using your consistency in terms of your content and your outreach to go, I'm Curtis and I work for Maverrik, I do this and that, and it's just keeping that familiar face to your prospects so they start to trust you. And you do, I promise this is the last one. When you started here, 2019? 2019, yeah. 2019. Seems so long ago, doesn't it? I know. You didn't use LinkedIn, did you? No. I've come from a lot of face-to-face sales backgrounds. I've come from heavy cold calling backgrounds. And since, I think I just made my LinkedIn like maybe a couple of months before joining this company. But since using LinkedIn, and I'm not being biased because I work here, I would say as a salesperson, I would always use LinkedIn. I'd pick LinkedIn over any other platform.
Even cold calling and email.
Even cold calling and email. It's just it almost makes sales fun because you're not having to always ask, and you're not pitching people all the time. A lot of it is focusing on the relationship and building the relationship, and the business always tends to follow.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Awesome. Curtis, thank you for putting up for my unscripted questions. Thanks for joining us on today's episode. Do all of the stuff that we want you to do, the likes, the subscribes, the follows, the whatever else there is, and we'll see you on the next episode.